I'll be answering two questions today. The first question is, what's the best picture profile for photography? And the second one, what's the best white balance to use for studio shoots? My name is Kwekwaye, and this is Ghanaian Photography. I get asked lots of questions in my DM on Instagram, and it's always a pleasure answering them. But what I've noticed is most of the time it's the same repetitive questions that keep coming. So I have decided to dedicate a part of this channel to answering questions from you guys. So if you have any question for me to answer, you can add them as comments in the various posts, or you can DM me on Instagram and I'll have them answered for you. The first question I'll answer today is, what is the best picture profile for photography and which profile do I use personally? When it comes to picture profiles for photography, there are two things we need to understand. What do you shoot in? Do you shoot RAW or JPEG? If you shoot RAW, then you don't have a problem with picture profiles. But if you shoot in JPEG, that's where the picture profiles will have a great impact on your pictures. Because if you shoot RAW, you have the chance to RAW process your RAW images in a RAW processor. And once you do that, you're able to tweak some of these sliders and all that to get the image to the way you want it. But when you shoot JPEG, you're not able to push some of these settings far in post. JPEG is like a cooked meal. You don't have the chance to be able to pick individual ingredients and tweak them the way you want. But if you're presented with the raw materials, you're able to prepare the food or the soup according to your taste. You can add the right quantity of salt, pepper, anything you want the way you want it. That's the essence of shooting in RAW. But in JPEG, it's like you've gone to a restaurant and the food is already cooked and you're served. You can add maybe a little bit of salt or some chili, but apart from that, you can't do much about the food. That's the basic explanation for RAW and JPEG. I have always shot RAW from the day I started photography. I did my research before between RAW and JPEG, and I realized what I needed was RAW. So since day one, I have been a RAW shooter. I shoot RAW. Let me say this again. If you shoot RAW, picture profiles have nothing on you, because what you see on your camera screen as you shoot is the processed JPEG. That's not your final image. It's just the preview for you to see what you're getting. So if you're shooting RAW, your picture profiles don't have any effect on your RAW pictures. But if you shoot JPEG, your profiles get applied to your images. So what you see on your screen becomes what your final image will be, unless you decide to tweak the images with an application. Let's say, for instance, you're shooting in JPEG and you shift your picture profile to monochrome, which is black and white. Your final image is going to be in black and white because it's JPEG. But if you're shooting in monochrome while shooting in RAW, your final images that you're going to transfer to your computer are going to be colored, because the monochrome profile will not be embedded into your RAW images. So why do we sometimes use monochrome or picture profiles? Because we are shooting in an environment and we want to visualize what the final images will look like, how we are going to color grade them to be like. So we choose certain color profiles just to give us a visualization. Let's say you're trying to do a silhouette or a black and white image, which is going to be your final image after processing. You would want to visualize how they will look like, whether your highlights and your shadows are well balanced in monochrome. So with that, you change your picture profile to monochrome while shooting RAW. But take note, when you transfer your RAW files to your computer to RAW process them, they will still be colored. In the beginning, I was using neutral because I didn't really understand the picture profiles very well. So I thought shooting neutral was going to give me a flat image to work with. Then I realized when you transfer them to your machine, they give you the basic raw pictures. So there was no need changing my picture profiles because I was shooting in RAW. Let's move to the second question. What is the best white balance setting for a studio shoot? I would say there is nothing like best, like a general best. It's preferential. I like cooler images, so my end products, my resulting images tend to be cool. The rule of thumb is your white balance, your Kelvin value should be equal to the color temperature of your lights. Most of us use the 8600 BM, and the 8600 BM has a Kelvin value of 5600 K. So if you're shooting in a studio and you want your white balance to be correct, you need to put it on 5600 because your 8600 BM has a temperature value of, has a Kelvin value of 5600 K. If you're shooting daylight, let's say you open your windows for the sun to come in, it's between 5600 and 5300. My camera is set to a Kelvin value of 5600. And don't forget, if you are shooting in RAW, these are things you can easily correct in post. But if you want the perfect white balance, you should use a white balance card to have it right there as you're shooting. But if you don't get it right there as you're shooting, I mean, these are things you can correct in post once you're shooting RAW. To answer this question directly, I use 5600 as my base Kelvin value for all shoots, whether in studio or events, anywhere I use 5600, and it always happens to be very close to the actual white balance. So I don't really do much about white balance in post unless there is an event where there are varieties of lights, and then when I come in, I'm able to turn that. But for studio, it's always at 5600 K. If you made it this far, kindly give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't done so. Don't forget to send in your questions and have them answered by me. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for watching.